Hey logic class, it's your logic teacher and we are here, and I want to do a quick bit of review real quick. If you remember, we were beginning to start arguments in exercise 13. I think you did. If not, you need to make sure you've gone through this. You have the solutions right here. But I mean, let me choose one right here just out of the blue. So let's take modus ponens here, okay? Remember, in order for something to be valid, so to demonstrate the validity, all right? So if I look at not P, I'm going to zoom down here a little bit. Not P, okay. Not P is remember, if it's valid, the premises are true, and we start off with the trying to make it invalid and see if there's a contradiction. So I'm going to start with true premises and a false conclusion. Okay, so working backwards here, if this is a false conclusion, then if not P is false, then P's got to be true. So going over here, that's true. The premise is true. If this is going on here, going over here, this works out just fine. But if you look here, if you've got true and then false, if true then false, then that can't happen. That is automatically false for a conditional. Okay, so we have like this crazy easy one, addition. If you think about this, again, true premise, false conclusion, and starting here, true, and then if P is true, and then if it's false, how can a disjunction be false? The only time a disjunction is false if both of them are false. So we have a contradiction, so therefore this must be valid. All right. So your money maker here, that your rules, I highly recommend getting a sheet of paper out and writing them all down like I've done here, so I can do a quick laminate them, I don't know, so help you out so you can see them, and you're going to be using these to work through these. Okay, so it's going to be very helpful. We're going to go through this and see how that's done. Okay, so in a proof, we can use rules that can help us out. All right, so imagine that this whole gobbledygook here is a massive argument in words, and this would be really hard to figure out if we can prove this or not. Now, if we take all the words and then we reduce them and put them into symbolic logic, then it's a lot easier, it's more palatable, much easier to work with. So imagine again, this is, some massive thing, I'm not even going to make up something on the spot with all this, okay, but so all of this represents a massive page or paragraph, and now we've taken this and we've simplified it. Now, how do we go about this? Well, we're going to use the idea that we can use inference here, okay? Using our friends that we had on the board in class, and then the ones I just showed you that I told you maybe laminate or something, because we're going to be using them. So realistically, we're just thinking kind of this being substitution, all right? I want to prove this, and I'm given this. So if we pause a second, if I were to just go ahead and take this whole thing and say, wait a second, I'm just going to let this be P. Alright, and if I let this be P here, because it's the same thing, this and this is the same thing, and this whole quantity over here is something different, okay? So I'm going to let this whole thing be Q. Now, not always is it the whole quantity. So if this whole thing is Q here, alright, so hopefully we should be able to see P, then if P, then Q, P, therefore Q. This is a modus ponens. Okay, excuse me, not modus ponens. I just kind of mixed tollens and ponens together. Modus ponens. So again, if P, then Q, given P, therefore Q. Okay, so all of this, those rules that we're given, aren't going to always come out in a nice happy form with P and Q. We're going to have to infer and take something and more complicated and make it more simple. All right. For example, if I had like something like 2x squared plus 2x, and I said, well, this is pretty complicated, but I can, P may be represented in this case something like this, or x in this situation, or a different expression. Let's just say it was x plus 3. Well, x could be 1 here. I'm like, x is just 1 plus that, algebraically, get my fat hand out of the way. So 2 plus 2, 1 squared is 1, 2 times this, and so is 4. Okay? But maybe over here in this expression, x, remember x is a variable. It can be whatever it wants. So maybe x is 10,000, okay? And so then the answer there is 10,003, okay? So we're using variables to express something in this case. Now p could be something else in a different setting, okay? All right, so I have another one here, and this one's a little bit more difficult to see, okay? So if I were to go ahead and let everything be represented by variables, okay? First off, I can't let this whole quantity be like a big giant cube because A and not A and B are represented individually. So I've got to go to the individual component. So I'm going to off to the side here, go ahead and do that. So P, not Q, or if P then Q, all right? Then I've got dot, and so P and Q, and then not A. All right, I'm going to go ahead and represent. That could be not P, but then I'm in the same scenario. So I'm going to go ahead and represent that with R. Okay, hopefully you'll see where I'm going with this. R then S. Okay, and then I've got P R. Okay, and then this final step is the thing. So this is going on here. Okay, but notice I let B here be a Q and B be an S. Okay, B can be represented by multiple variables, okay? And then not A was represented by an R because it's a different situation. But how can B be represented in as a different variable? That's fine. X could be 2, or X could be 1, or X could be 10,000. Okay, it just has to flow logically, it has to work. And so now we've got B. And hopefully you can see it a little bit better. If I've got this situation and I've got this situation, that last line should see how they come together. So now I have Q or S. And we look at what we've got going on here and look at your sheet or your rules, go back to them, and this is a constructive dilemma, or we'll label as CD. Okay. And the other one up there was a modus ponens, and label them. So CD and MP. All right. So this was a little bit tricky. Pause it, rewind it, go back to it, look at it a few times. So that's not C.D. That's C. for abbreviation. Constructive dilemma. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so I'm going to try to make this seamless, but with the pauses and breaks, doing that just because I only have 15 minutes. So. We've got this one. This is the freedom, evil writings, and freedom of speech one from the last section. Okay, so remember with the proof, we want to prove this, and we got to get this player on the board in the correct fashion. Okay, so the next line of this proof, I'm going to go ahead, actually going to write the whole thing out, and hopefully we'll be able to see it. I'm going to go over here and show you what's done. Okay, we're going to have more practice. Can't see it overnight. Hold on. Okay, remember to have this with you. Have this out, or that page open, or have this out. We're going to use this one, so make sure you have absorption out without messing everything up here. So we've got this situation here. Okay, it's going to use line 2, and I want to get this. So I've got P. I'm looking at absorption. Say I'm looking off screen. I'm looking at absorption. P, not F is the whole thing. I'm going to let that be P. That's Q. Okay, P. If P, then Q. All right. And then with absorption, if P then Q, all right, then we've got, with absorption, we got P then, if P, therefore, P and R, okay? So, let me pause, write that out. Okay, so I know this looks a little messy, but again, we're using absorption, all right? So P, then Q, if P then Q, absorption, and then it's going to be P and then the conjunction of P and Q. Okay, so over here is a little helpful tool that what's the value of P is this, what's the value of Q. Okay, so now I'm going to use the next line. I want to get this. This is the next line. From this, I get this. As you can see, this becomes here, and then we add this new player on the board. But where did we get him from? Well, we got him from 1 and 4 in conjunction. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, here's 1. Okay, looking at this, this is P. This whole thing is P. So this is going to be this, okay? And then this is going to be not F. This, Okay, so we got this going on. Okay, this is Q, and this is P. So looking at, you out of conjunction in front of you, P, P, then Q, or P by itself, then Q by itself, then we can get this statement. Okay. Okay, so this last one's probably a little bit more complicated, but you can get there. Okay, so we use a constructive dilemma. Okay, and value of P is F, value of Q is W. So going this, I put underneath there to help us see it. Value of P is F, value of Q is W. But from that very first line, it says, and then I can make that R. I can make this whole thing S. And then if you look, I've got P or R. And so then the conclusion, looking at the constructive dilemma, should be Q or S. Q or S. Q or S. All right. So I know I'm not looking at the camera too much, but again, time is of the essence. I'm trying to go through these and help us out. Okay. Let's keep going. Okay, so I'm going to work the last two here. These are from the homework. I want you to do the 14A, but you don't have to do these two. But let's look at this real quick. So go ahead and analyze this, and I'm going to show you the work here in a second. I'm going to pause it because I'm running out of time. Okay, so look at this one and think, can you determine what's going on, what this one is? All right. Okay, so if you guessed a hypothetical syllogism, you were correct. P, if P, then Q. If Q, then R. Therefore, if P, then R. So this would be hypothetical syllogism. Okay, let's go over here and analyze it real quick. Let me pause, give you a chance to look it over. Okay, I haven't written anything down yet, but again, our end game is this. We want Y or Z, and we are only given these, and we have to start with, so usually when you're working, you know that the next line's got to involve these steps here. Then these other ones could involve that very next step. So this step here has to involve 1 through 3, and somehow from here I was able to get this. And then the next one here, I'm most likely going to involve step 4 or something. I'm going to have to get from here from everything else, and then everything builds. And the last step, everything from above. Let me do one at a time. Okay, I'm going to use the next one in a green color, but again, line 1 and line 3, wherever, if I let this be P and this be Q, we get lines 1 and 3 in conjunction. Okay, we got to state the lines we use and the property that we use. Okay, now all of this is given for you, so that's nice. That's nice. We're not there yet. We're not the ability where we can do this yet on our own. Hopefully soon, but not yet. Okay, let me pause. Okay, so addition is a nice one because it brings a player on the field that we don't have. So again, if I like substituting as a soccer coach, P's already on the field, okay, but where in the world W come from? I see W, if W then Z, but no W by itself. So addition's great because if I have P by itself, then I can go P or Q, okay? So if I have P by itself, I can go P or Q. So this is using line 2 and addition. Okay, last one, let me find another color. So the last one, we use the constructive dilemma, use line 4 and line 5. Okay, I wrote above it. So if P or Q, if P then Q, and if R then S. So P Q R S, and then P or R. Therefore, we can see Q or S, P Q R S, P R, and then we can see that the conclusion is Q S. And that was what we wanted from the get-go, to isolate Y and Z, and this helps. If you want to do this way with color, that's fine. Up above, the book recommends a strategy here. I'm a list guy, so I think for me it helps seeing it like this with color, but you know, you decide what works for you. But again, the key is to make it neat, make it legible, make sure I, the reader, understand what you're doing, and then does it follow? That's the key. When you get to me as a geometry teacher, does it follow? Does it follow? Okay. And again, I don't expect you to get this yet. We're not there. Just can you determine where in the world did they get these from? Okay. So work exercise 4, and God bless, and see you later.